first chance I had to direct, we were doing The Crazies, George Romero's The Crazies, and I was made the DP, and that was the first film that I had been officially made the DP. George's wife's Nancy was having a baby, so I got to direct for I think almost 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and pretty much thrown into it. But most of the segments where the soldiers are going around gathering up the citizens and stuff like that, those little action things, those are all mine. And where they're burning the bodies of the dead people, I kind of like that shit. But, you know, those are mostly my scenes. I had a lot of fun doing that, and it was not too long after that, I guess, that I left the Latent Image after the sports. I did a whole bunch of sports documentaries, and once again, I got a chance to direct because George couldn't be there, so I would, like the O.J. Simpson show, I did that. And then I left and started doing my educational stuff with Mini Productions, a company called Mini Productions, which was mine and another fellow's. And we did a lot of educational, industrial stuff up until, you know, made quite a good living at it. I think what it all boils down to is, you know, like Freud said, it all boils down to sex. In the United States, it all boils down to money. And you can go at it making low-budget films for a long time and not be successful, or you can hit a lucky streak like George Romero did and get a reputation. But most of us just keep struggling along and taking the garbage out like everybody else does every Thursday night, and changing the kids' diapers and having fun being in the business. And I've been in the business. I started out as a still photographer when I met George and Russ, and worked with them doing lighting because they had no idea how to light things, and became more of the technical person, and therefore became the director of photography after George got tired of shooting. But in my career since then, I've been in deep mines as a cinematographer. I've been in deep mines. I've been in the highest towers. I've been hanging out of helicopters. I've been hanging out of wind boats. I've been in submarines. I've been all over the damn place. And I've had some wonderful, wonderful adventures. And if someone said that I would give that up, I could die rich, or I could keep it and die poor, I'll die poor. Because, you know, I think I made that decision when I was like 18 years old and walked into a steel mill in Pittsburgh and said, I got to get the hell out of here. And I had an interest in photography, so I started saving my money to go to New York Institute of Photography. And that's what I did. I went to a convention in Pittsburgh, some kind of sci-fi convention at the Hilton Hotel, to visit Jack and Bob Michelucci. And when I went, I wore my Night of the Living Dead colorized pin. And as I'm walking through the crowd, people are recognizing who I am, which took me a little by surprise. And as I go around, I'm getting, you know, a lot of attention from people. And I walked out of that place thinking, damn, you know, I should do something about this. And I decided to do a film. And a fellow that I knew tried to talk me into doing it on video, and I said, you know, no, if you're going to do this, you got to do it correctly, you know. So I said, well, I have 16 millimeter equipment because I made a lot of educational films and industrial films and documentaries. Yeah, I made a pretty good living doing that. But all of a sudden I thought that with the videotape market as it was, which was they were buying up everything, there were a million mom and pop's video stores everywhere, and they needed the product. So I started asking around to friends and family and gathered up what I thought was enough money to make the film and started to do it. You know, sit down with another guy and started fleshing out my ideas, so to speak, and putting it on paper, and started casting and hunting around for people to do it.
Everyone was getting paid very, very little money. Even back, very little money. Most of everyone was getting was about $25 a day, flat rate. Of course, that was, what, 1987, when $25 would actually, buy you nothing. But it's $25 a day flat rate for a long day. If it was a shorter day, I decided in my evil producerial wisdom, well, we'll just pay half of that for a shorter day for the crew to save some money. Yeah, that's it, Bill. We'll save money. We'll pay half of $25 a day. The gaffer that we brought in was a real electrician, worked on real movies, that was doing this sort of as a favor to the DP, because he just wanted sort of an easy job. This was supposed to be a cakewalk for him, so he was actually getting a little bit more than $25 a day. He was getting not quite real money, but he was getting more. He felt so guilty. Rango was his nickname. Barry Kessler was the gaffer. He felt so guilty about making more money that he wound up starting buying the food, part of the food, for craft services, because our craft service was so nothing, and he had so much extra money compared to everyone else, and everyone else had nothing, that he'd come in with the bags of chips and the pretzels.
The inspiration for the FleshEater character was all Bill's idea. It was based on his character that he played in the original 1968 version of Night of the Living Dead. He wanted to kind of look similar, but not exactly the same. So he basically bought this old suit, and I distressed it with a blowtorch and actually caught the pants on fire and burned a big hole in it, quite by accident, which does happen. Then, we just kind of came up with the makeup. He wanted to look similar, but a little bit older, and he just wanted grease paints. He didn't want any appliances. He didn't want to take time with the makeup. He just wanted a straight, out of the kit makeup. And we stained his teeth up a little. I talked him into doing that. And I think we took some different colors of food color, red and green and blue, and mixed them together, and we swished it around his mouth and made his tongue and inside of his mouth black, which looked really disgusting. He was always like drooling things, and we'd fill his mouth full of blood and like chunks of latex, and he'd have him hang out his mouth all the time. And I remember one scene where he had to take a bite out of this, the first death in the film, which was a farmer. He bites him in the throat, and he said, "Put a big piece of like flesh in my mouth." So I stuck this thing in his mouth, and it looked like a big pork chop. I thought it would be small enough at the time. I thought, well, according to the bite wound in the neck, it would be this huge chunk of flesh, and he was like choking on it and stuff, and he's like, "Jesus Christ, what the hell are you giving me here?" He's like, "You're gonna choke me to death. So give me a smaller piece." So we got him this smaller piece, and it was pretty amusing. We had a lot of laughs on the movie.
I don't know who the fuck you are, man. Get out of here.
So I changed the character a little. I kept this guy almost like with a supernatural type of strength. He could do just about anything. And having him discovered buried by insinuated witchcraft somewhere in the film, I think that changed it enough. One of the funny things that happened was that I sent a letter with a photograph of me kneeling in front of a farmhouse with a girl in my arms to George Romero and to John Russo. And I promptly got 2 letters from attorneys back saying I couldn't do that. And I promptly wrote back saying, "Why in the hell can't I?" And I did it anyway. So I think I changed the character enough. But I didn't see that I didn't think they owned the character anyway. So the whole Night of the Living Dead thing is like, we were all, George directed us throughout the film to only have strength in unison. But when we shot the beginning of the film, which was the last thing shot, when George gave me direction to kill Russell, I said, "How am I going to do that?" And he said, F it. You got strength. So I proceeded to have strength. And after that, zombies always had strength.
For most of the movie, I was like the only special effects person, and then they finally gave me an assistant. And this was a young kid who was he wanted to be rock star, and he had this, kind of 80s kind of rocker hair, and yes, and well, totally blank. I think his name was Mark, and he's a really good kid, but boy, he damn near killed me on a daily basis on this movie. The first day, I'm driving to work, and he's supposed to meet me there. And I'm in my brand new Toyota van. And I'm driving along, and it's really icy, and I stop at a stop sign, and I start to skid, and I start to slide, and this woman is in front of me, and I come sliding almost to a stop, and I'm like, just missed her, didn't hit her, and all of a sudden, smash! Somebody smashes in the back of me, knocks my van into her car, and we both go sliding through the intersection, and I get out, and I'm really pissed off. I want to kill this guy, and it's him. And he destroyed his dad's truck. First day of work. Not a good sign to crash into your boss and almost kill him. So after that, he nearly decapitated me with a bandsaw blade, which he broke, and it flew across the shop. I was like, boing! You know, this bandsaw blade comes flying across, almost takes my head off. And smashed my thumb the second day of shooting with a hammer when he was holding a nail. While I was holding a nail, it smashed. And but other than that, he lived through the production, I think, if I didn't kill him. I don't remember. Corn syrup, the food coloring, photo flow, and a little bit of water. And that's what I had read that Dick Smith used, and since he was, the makeup artist that I admired the most, that's, if it was good enough for him, that's what I used. Tom Savini used the same formula also. Most makeup artists use that basic Dick Smith formula. At that time, there wasn't a whole lot of information to learn about special effects. Now they have schools. I'm actually an instructor at the Douglas Education Center's Tom Savini Special Effects program. I'm the lead instructor, and now we teach these things the correct way, the way they use them in industry. Back then, in the early 80s, that technology was just developing, so there was no information. You had to read magazines and look through Fangoria magazine or Cinefantastique and read one little line. Dick Smith said, he uses this, and it's like, oh, and then you have to, what is that? And you had to kind of do some research and find out what this product was, and then try to figure out how to use it. So it was difficult learning in those days. It took a long time to actually find out how these things worked. Well, FleshEater, I don't know how I got involved. I don't know if I got my arm twisted, or it was a gunpoint, or I don't quite remember how I got involved. And I think I had worked on the majorettes with Bill and did a lot of effects for that, and it was just kind of logical that I would end up doing the effects on this. It was a low-budget film. It was a zombie movie. I had to work on it. I worked on pretty much every zombie movie that has been done in Pittsburgh, so I just wanted to do it. It was just a fun thing. It wasn't for the money. It was just a low-budget, cheesy film, and it was probably the most fun I ever had on a movie.
After working at a comic book store for a few years, and it's really the only things that I've ever done. But since 1985, I've been in the movie business. I've worked on a lot of stuff, some of it good, some of it not so good. FleshEater, hands down, to this day, still remains the most consecutive solid fun I've ever had on any project ever. I look back at that period with an immense fondness that I think other people probably reserve for their best years in high school.
Pretty much on a daily basis, something happened on this movie. I think the story around the film is, the stories are just hysterical. We had one effect that we had to do, and Bill wanted to kill this girl in a barn. He wanted to jam his hand through her torso and pull out her heart. He wanted the heart to beat. So I figured, well, we could make a heart, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to do it, so I thought, well, Savini always used pig guts for his movie, so I went around and asked a couple farmers in the area if they had any, pig guts or something, because I knew they slaughtered pigs. And this kind of rednecky kind of guy comes up and goes, "I'll get you some pig guts. How much do you want? I'll get you a whole bag full of guts." And I thought, well, I just need the heart. If you could just give me a pig's heart, I'll get that would be just fine. And I think previous to this, Andy Sands, who is the co-producer or producer, line producer, what were you? the supervisor. Andy was the main man on this movie. He pretty much ran the entire production and lived in the production office. Me and him lived in the production office, slept in sleeping bags on the floor. Randy had his sleeping bag under the desk and slept under there, I think. Even next to like bloody corpses that I made. One day he woke up and tried to wake me up and it was a bloody corpse, and he seemed to remember that. Substituted the bloody corpse for me. So Andy had bought a cow's heart, and it was this big. So that was unusable. So I think he cooked it and ate it for dinner, and we had to get a smaller heart, more human size. So I figured, you know, either a sheep or a pig's heart would be more human size. So this farmer said he would give me some pig guts. Well, he comes in with this huge trash bag, and it must have weighed, you know, like 100 pounds. And he goes, "Here's your pig guts." And I'm thinking, what is in here, the whole pig? And apparently he just gutted the pig, and all the guts fell into this bag, and he had this huge bag of guts. So I thought, well, I'm going to deal with this later. I'm going to just throw it in my van, and we'll go back and we'll find the heart in this massive guts. I really didn't know what was in the bag. So he looks at me and he goes, "I wouldn't put that bag of guts in that van. Those gases will start fermenting, and pretty soon it's going to just blow up in there." So I'm getting really freaked out, thinking this bag of guts is going to explode inside my van. So I'm driving 100 miles an hour back to the studio and get my assistant, Mark, this young kid, wannabe rock star, to find the heart. All right? So about an hour later, I'm looking at my watch going, all right, we have to mold this heart overnight and shoot this scene tomorrow. So where is he? So I go down to the laundry tub, and he is down there. He's got these boots, ankle boots on with duct tape around. He's got a paper suit on. He's got gloves, those big gloves up to here, taped up. He's got a gas mask on. He's got a hood on. He's totally taped up, and he's got blood and guts hanging everywhere out of the sink. They're on the walls. They're all over this dryer and washer that are next to it, and they're all over the floor. And I said, "Come here a minute, please." He had on this gas mask without the filters in. So he's down there cutting these pig guts up, breathing all these toxic fumes, and it's not doing a damn thing to protect him. So that's even funnier. So we go upstairs, and I said, "Exactly what are you doing? I sent you down there an hour ago to get this heart." He said, "Well, what does a heart look like?" And I said, "Well, you know, you don't know what a heart looks like?" He goes, "Well, there's these big blobs of like purple things and white things." I said, "All right, I'm going to go down there and look." So I go down there, look in the laundry tub, and it's the entire pig carcass in there, and you cannot find the heart. We were cutting through everything, all these membranes and stuff, and pulling things open, trying to find this heart. And it took us another 20 minutes to find it. So finally we get this heart, and we look at it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no way we're going to have this on the set by 9 o'clock. There's no way we're going to mold it and do something with it. So we have this bloody heart sitting on the table, and we're both staring at it. And finally this little light goes off, and we think, balloons. We have balloons. So we taped a piece of balloon to a piece of tubing, got a syringe, and we shoved it down into the center of the heart. And the one thing he was good at was making this heart beat. He would squeeze that pump, and it would actually make the real heart beat. So we thought, this is it. So we sealed it up in the torso and went to sleep for a couple hours. We go to set. Forgot to tell Bill that there was a real heart in there, not a gelatin heart, which he was thinking was going to be in there. So we do the scene, action, Bill gets, goes up, tears into the torso, pulls the heart out, takes a big bite out of it. And the expression on his face was absolutely priceless, because he said, "Jesus Christ, what are you trying to do? Poison me? What is this? This isn't gelatin. This is a real heart." I'm thinking, oh, I forgot to tell him. So accidents do happen.